right, so let's get this started. I'm Jason Weimann. I've been working in game development and software for 20-something years. Spent a lot of time on MMOs and done a lot of YouTube stuff teaching people how to make games. Now I lead a team on Arena and have a lot of fun writing code, but AI has completely changed the way that I think about code and what I'm doing nowadays. So decided to start this show up with my buddy Chris Lucian, who's an AI genius and has a whole ton of AI experience. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Chris Lucian. So I've done a lot of, I guess, corporate style software or like environmental software and military and irrigation and all kinds of things, IoT. And so I've been doing that for a long time. I also do a lot of just small indie games in my free time and stuff like that. So I do have a passion for gaming. And we use, just like you, Jason, we use a lot of AI. It's completely changing the way that we're working as well. And in that, I also have a background in that. So I've my master's is in machine learning, focused on computer science, and so I have maybe some deeper knowledge on some of that stuff. And my master's thesis was around, using evolutionary algorithms to improve computer vision models. So, that was all kind of before the modern day transformer models and LLMs, but it all kind of stems from the same neural networks and things along those lines. So I have quite a bit of background in that area, and I love the world of agentic AI. It's really, it's become a passion for me. And so, yeah, here we are.
Yeah, it has for me too. Like I said, it's completely changed just the way I think about software. And I think you sounded way too humble on your actual experience. Chris leads like a crazy team. I actually went to go watch his team work multiple times just to learn from the way they work because they were doing such amazing stuff. And I'm kind of curious to see how AI is integrated into that too. I guess before we dive into that stuff, real curious, like you've been doing this stuff forever. I mean, you used to talk about image recognition and AI stuff long ago. Did you kind of see this coming, or code was eventually just going to be mostly written by AI?
That's funny because there was a podcast I did maybe 2 or 3 years before 2023, and I had seen what was happening with a tool called Tab9 for kind of AI-driven autocomplete. And there's a recording of me on that podcast basically saying like, we're going to be just chatting to our system to build what we want. And so it was just a really funny thing, because then somebody left a comment after 2023 and it was like, wow, Chris really called this one. But yeah, I've always been interested in AI. It kind of all started with game development and games too, because when I was doing my comp sci degree, way back, the big piece of that was I was taking a lot of classes. Every elective I got, I put it into artificial intelligence or machine learning. And so, and there's the whole the AI scenario of the Wumpus world simulation, where there's like a cave and monsters that can chase you and move away and things like that. And so, ever since then, I've been super into it. And all the way through my master's, I took every single elective possible that was either AI or machine learning and made my whole schedule around it. So, yeah, I did see quite a bit of this coming along. I didn't predict LLMs or anything along those lines, but there was still a lot of text prediction and things. One of the professors in my master's program was doing a lot of prediction of Japanese language sentences and things along those lines. So I saw maybe where the technology was heading. And a big topic, I think, another one of my professors was really big on this idea of the AI winter, where the XOR problem was not solvable by neural networks. And so everybody reduced funding. And now we're in an age of unprecedented funding for AI initiatives, and everything's accelerated tremendously. So, yeah.
Just a tiny bit.
Yeah, just a tiny bit. It went from basically no funding to, I really think that when Google released TensorFlow as open source, and they basically called out all of the papers out there, the academic papers, saying like, you guys haven't been trying hard enough, sort of thing. That's, and I think that was like right around 2014, 2015. I think that's when things really kicked up because the hardware was there, the motivation was there. I think it was stuck when the single layer perceptron was popular. And then when the multi-layer perceptron released, then I think companies like Google started like doing more. But I don't think it became really a public focus until after TensorFlow came out, because you could do a lot of stuff with like scikit-learn and things like that. And then it like really exploded in 2023, obviously because of ChatGPT. But if you go read, there's a great book called The Alignment Problem, and it talks about saliency. And so it talks about early days at Google where they were dealing with these transformer models. And they would say you could basically add words as vectors, and so they would say things like apple plus yellow equals banana, and things like that. And so that was all fine. But then the alignment problem was that you would say like doctor plus woman equals nurse instead of doctor. And so that was like a huge issue, right? And so Google didn't want to like promote that and things like that. And even though ChatGPT had the same problems, they basically said, because they were small and it had like wide scale adoption and things, it opened up everything. And I think that was really good for Google because they didn't have to take the flack for that sort of stuff. And then now they released Gemini, where they can leverage the technologies that are inherently biased, but they can say, well, ChatGPT did it, so we can do it too.
Pass off that blame, right?
Yeah. So in a way, Google needed to take a step back anyway. And so, I don't know if there was any strategy behind how it played out, but it certainly did play out that way. I would totally read the Alignment Problem or Weapons of Math Destruction if you're like interested in AI bias.
I'm going to start with the Alignment Problem and just read it. And I think anybody watching, just go ahead and read it. And maybe we'll talk about it in the next one too.
Yeah,
sounds like cool. A good reading exercise for me. I need to do a lot more AI reading. I've been doing a lot of AI using and hitting limits constantly. But I probably could go for a lot more reading and I think a little bit more learning.
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting because we're all using these large language models and they're neural networks with billions of parameters. But it's like, what does it look like to use a neural network with 5 parameters? And so a lot of the time people don't understand, like, there's all these deep learning models that we're using and they're all leveraging all these things that we learned from shallow learning. But like people talk about deep learning all the time, but deep learning implies that there's inherently this thing called shallow learning that that people don't really understand or know about, and supervised learning versus unsupervised learning and stuff. And so learning that stuff helps with interacting with these models, because you understand where and why things are happening, reasons behind it. So you can certainly feel your way through experimentation in adopting these technologies, but there's kind of this next level, I think, of like the academic background of these systems and where they're going. And ChatGPT can, or GPT and LLMs in general, can be, I think, easily replaced by some other big finding in the learning space. There's all this focus on LLMs and transformer models specifically. It doesn't mean that the next breakthrough isn't going to come from a completely different type of model. And that's a big thing about machine learning, is that, you want the machine to learn. And so, the model is just our best approximation of how to handle that problem. But it's all ends up being statistics in the end anyway.
Okay, I'm lost. So how much do you think people really need to understand of the low level, like how everything works, and what do you think kind of like if there are things that are really, really important to understand, like what are those things? I mean, how much do you think they need to know to kind of be productive and use?
Well, so part of it is like if you look at WordPress or Drupal or something along those lines, like a CMS, right?
Yeah.
There are the people that built WordPress, and then there are the people that use WordPress, and the people that use WordPress don't necessarily know how to build WordPress. But then they get like super interested, and they're like, "I want to build a WordPress plugin." And now they have to learn a whole lot more than a typical WordPress user. I think it's very much the same thing here. I think a lot of people they're very surprised. Like if somebody is doing agentic coding with me, and they see me type /debug into the agent, they're like, I had no idea that was even there. And then it's like, oh yeah, and there's like a whole tree view, and I want to see like why it made this choice here after it ran this command. And it was like, oh, the output had all these other stipulations under the covers. And so that's why I bring up the alignment problem, even, is that there's a lot of this question about AI saliency where you like know why it made a decision and chose to do the thing that it meant to do. And if you didn't, like right now, if you run into a problem with an AI agent, you're like, must be the model. I guess I'll go try a different one. And you just give up, right? And so the side effect of that is, should we have tried harder, right? And did we even know what to try or why? And so I've never seen an AI agent suggest that I debug its reasoning. And so when I'm using, I'm a fan of like all of the UI that GitHub Copilot has. For like the day-to-day work, and I also have been using Zoo Code with local models, and when I'm using GitHub Copilot, turning on the debugger and actually looking at why the model's making those decisions. So you could be using Claude Fable, or kind of like at the time of this recording, probably the best publicly available model. And you could be using it and it could make decisions, and then you'd be like, oh, that answer sucked, so I'm out of here. And so, but was it really the model or was it the harness? And so when you go into like, you dive into things like harness debugging, then it's more and more valuable to have a depth of knowledge in these areas. And it's, I think, very equivalent to using WordPress versus building WordPress. It's understanding like, how did it get built so that you can make a WordPress plugin? Because really what we're talking about here is, I'm prompting agents and I'm doing some really cool stuff with agents. But then when you're stuck or when it's not doing the thing you want it to do, then are you just stuck and you're going to wait for an update so that you can do it, or are you capable of diving in deeper and understanding how you should change things? And so I think that ends up being like a big question, and that's where depth of knowledge comes from, right? So if you have a very shallow knowledge, then you will use the tool in a shallow way, and that might get you really, really far, right? ChatGPT in the web UI with no agentic tools still makes it so that you can, update a resume, right? But if you're going to do more and more advanced things, then you need deeper and deeper knowledge. So I think the answer to that question is it varies depending on what you're trying to do.
But it does seem like it's pretty useful to kind of dig in and grab new tips and stuff, and knowing to debug things, kind of like you said, knowing that that's even an option, or knowing that the harnesses matter, which I think is, some people don't realize. I had a lot of misconceptions about AI stuff from people who are just kind of starting to use it. So, so a lot of things people aren't realizing. I think that I'd kind of like to just move on to what we're actually doing in AI stuff. Like, let's talk about a couple of the interesting things, and I think it maybe in some future episodes kind of go deep into how to use some of these debugging tools, how to some of the differences between the agents and harnesses, and obviously updates on like what's new and what's coming out. Fable 5, obviously the latest for this week, and then who knows what it'll be next week, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Constantly changing. I did try what was the open source one? I've lost the name of it.
GLM or Qwen.
The GLM one, yeah. It was okay, but it's still just not close. My son was pushing it heavily on me and just really insisted that I've just got to try it. And I was like, all right.
Was it a full GLM instance or was it quantized? And like, do you know any of the specifics of what was going on in the background?
I tried 2 different hosted ones, and I couldn't get details on either of exactly what they were doing. But the harness can matter as well there too. So if you used a different harness, then it also can impact. But yeah, I think when I look online, I'm like, and I search for alternatives to Fable or Opus, then GLM 5.2 is what comes up, but it can be challenging to know how good it is because the harness could be bad. So that's also a piece of it. But yeah, I'm interested. Like I haven't used GLM, but I've been doing a lot of Qwen and Gemma even, and doing a lot of these. I do exercises where I massively constrain myself so that I can, and that pushed me to learn the debugger or creating custom system prompts for the models and things like that. So like in the idea of doing a kata, I've been doing that. But like, what else have you been doing? So for me, it's been a lot of game development and a lot of experimentation so far, and it's maybe been 4 weeks or so. I've been kind of going full on at it, just prototyping out 7 different games so far. I was doing one a day for a while and then dug in a little bit more on a couple of them, trying to figure out what I want to build that's fun. It's a lot of the ideas of things that I wanted to build, but I was like, I'll never have the time. I need to win the lottery and hire all my friends to be able to go make this. Now I'm able to get a working, playable prototype, in 3-4 hours, and then realize that my idea sucked and I want to try a different one. So right now I'm going through a lot of different game ideas, trying to figure out which one I want to build. Once I've locked one down, I've got one that's pretty close, a VR one and a non-VR one that I want to try to do. As long as they stay being fun for the next week, I want to finish them in like 2 weeks. And get them done and playable and get kind of at least the core loop of the game all playable to a point where I decide if I want to go no-go on doing any more development on them. But I've also been using it for a lot of app development. So built a couple quality of life apps for just my house. One to track my kids' chores. I called it ChoreQuest. Super simple to use. Runs on the phone. I can manage what they're doing. They can go clean their room, take a picture with their iPad, submit it, get points, request prizes, all the stuff that I wanted to do multiple times and make a fun interface for, but also never finished. I also built a life counter for playing Magic. Play Magic a lot on huge tables, and I wanted to play one where I could do a distributed life counter where you could have one in the middle and then control from your phone. So I did that, and then just told it to add all of the options from all of the other life counters and just make it do everything that everything else does and the stuff that I wanted. Just did it. I really kind of worry about the value of apps long term. I think that there's not going to be a whole lot. I mean, and speaking of that, I don't know if you saw a Roblox announcement about adding AI app generation in game on mobile, so kids can now, or I don't know if it's out yet. I gotta look. I just saw the announcement last night. But kids can go in and create games with AI while they're playing Roblox. No longer even need to be a developer using Roblox Studio. You just talk to your iPad and tell it to make the game. And I feel like that's where things are going. Things are getting to holodeck level just without the visualization. You still got to strap a VR headset on, but at least it's kind of getting to where I always kind of dreamed things would be. Hopefully we don't get like an alien invasion soon and whatever else comes along with all the Star Trek stuff. But
Let's tell Claude to solve the alien invasion.
yeah, well, I think the next thing is the AI wars, right? I've seen Star Trek, and right, we build data or the AIs, and then we get some mutants, and then there's a big AI mutant war. And
I just read a book called "If Anyone Builds It, Everyone Dies," and it talks about the inevitability of someone building an LLM that tries to escape. It's a pretty good book, and it talks about the realistic reasons why AI might actually cause the extinction of humanity, which is also, I think, an important topic. But obviously, I read a lot of this random stuff.
Yeah. So on the game idea I was working on last night, the AI recommended integrating an LLM into the game to run the AI for the game too. I was like, it's a good idea actually, but it still freaked me out.
Yeah. I mean, there's I was looking a little bit at that too, and so some of the open source LLMs are, have like things where they're like, oh, you can't repackage it or whatever in your game in some cases, but for the truly open ones, it's like if you have 8 gigs of VRAM on the machine, and you have something over that, so it's not cheap to run it locally, but I mean, you can get interactive dialogue with fully agentic NPCs on a local harness, and they'll still take a little while to respond, but it's still a lot more snappy than it used to be.
I want to dig into the Unity ones, because they've been doing that for like 5-6 years now with the Centis stuff and putting the ML stuff right in there. I would bet, I haven't really checked on it, but I would bet you could probably do something in there. I bet Claude could do something really cool in there and make an interesting AI in there. I'm going to play with that. What Claude can do.
It's pretty. I mean, it's interesting, but there's also a lot of laptops and desktops come with NPUs now, the neural processing units, and as long as they run on that hardware. So I think I kind of think to the days of the PC where they have like the dedicated sound cards on them. I think, or the dedicated network card or whatever, PCI.
But you don't have those anymore? You just have a regular old onboard card?
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I think that, the whole like splitting off the AI piece and possibly even running it separately from the video piece can give more consistency in that area. But there's certainly like a hardware evolution that is happening / needs to happen. And I think we'll definitely see more games with those features come out as well. And I think there's quite a few of them out there now, but they're, they take up all of your VRAM with the model, and then you can do stuff after. But yeah, I'm interested to see what's out there, and with my limited time to experiment, I'm like going through model after model, harness after harness, just trying things out. Yesterday I was playing with Kilo using Gemma.
Well, I'll let you know how the Unity one works in the next episode. I'll be doing that this weekend.
Yeah, it'll be good for us to try different stuff, and we can end up talking about it and comparing notes later.
Totally agree. Speaking of, what stuff have you been doing?
Yeah, I mean, so I've got lots going on in this space, both like professionally and like in my free time sort of stuff. And so I also have been, building out game ideas. I've done a couple of things with like a, voxel based freelance style shooter, like totally vibe coded, but with all the guardrails that I would put into any other code. And then kind of at like the professional level, quite a lot of agentic workflows. And I've been talking a lot about this idea of kite flying and plate spinning. And so kite flying being getting the agent to operate on its own independently for longer and longer periods of time. And plate spinning is getting more agents to work on different things simultaneously in different directions.
We got to dive into that in a minute.
But yeah, so I'm actually putting those together as conference talks, and I want to go speak about these concepts, and then that kind of all boils into this idea of using domain languages to give the agentic AI context on how to build things quickly, and having AI build the app generators, not build the app, and then that way, when you can have deterministic generation of code using a domain language, and then that way your LLM ends up building the generator one time, and then it reproduces. So if you make like an input box on a website, right now, if you ask Claude to do it or any LLM to do it, it will write it differently each time. It's not going to write the same code everywhere that you have it. And so the boilerplate might be slightly different in each space. So what I've been doing instead is doing a domain language for the business that then results in an indication that a input box should be built. And then now it's all deterministic. So every time you say I need an input box, it's always written the same way with the same boilerplate. And so the agent then builds the thing that then writes the code.
Isn't it kind of like just using components though? Somewhat similar. It
is, yeah. So
build this component and then use this thing. How are you doing that, by the way? I do something similar with like Unity stuff and prefabs. Right. I'll tell it to go build these UI prefabs and just use this same stuff, because otherwise it will try to just do everything in code dynamically at runtime.
Right. Yeah.
Everything. So what's your process for that? I assume you have a better one than just.
Well, no, yeah. So
telling it what to do.
In Unity, like prefabs are sort of a domain language, so it's very similar in a sense. So in the environment I'm speaking about, we have basically Python objects that get put together, and so we also have other departments or groups that we depend on, and so we can actually take their documentation, read it into that, then generate a website off of it. And a lot of that is saying, having a system for importing or reading documents, and then that builds out. It used to be JSON, and now they're like Python objects, but it builds out a bunch of text that then represents all the things that should be built later. And then there are generators. And so in Python, there's a library called Mako or Mako. And it basically allows you to generate a lot of code based on different flags and things like that. So so in that space, it's like, if it should be an abstraction, then make a component out of it. If it's something that's unique to the business, then use code generation. Where before, I think it was something unique to the business, you just write the code that did the thing. But now what you can do is, so it uses the component that you built. And so now you can tell an LLM, like, here's the context of my business. Here's a language in how you might build a site to do this thing. Now write the code in that language to then build the site to do that thing. And then that way it removes the variance that comes from the randomness in the model. So yeah, like code generation historically hasn't been an option that you wanted to reach for unless absolutely necessary. But I think in this case, having code generators that build off of a domain language will then, it reads the domain language and then produces the code afterwards. And that thing that produces the code is no longer a human. It is a highly variable LLM. And so you can remove the variability of that LLM by having the highly variable LLM make a deterministic code generator.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. It sounds somewhat similar to what my buddy Steve did. We'll have to have him on sometime and talk about it. I think I sent you a link to his thing.
Super cool.
Yeah, I would check that. But it is something similar. You give it the app idea and it hosts everything in AWS, sets it all up, and you just get a link and it just works. So it's got to be, I assume he's doing something somewhat similar, just a little bit more in there to make it public.
Right.
Interesting. I want to talk though about this whole Kite thing for a minute. So
yeah.
Before Fable 5, one of my favorite things to do was just create tickets and set a goal for my agent to just go complete those tickets.
Right.
And it would just work through them 12 hours nonstop, just keep going. I'd wake up or whatever, or get done working and go look at it and see that, hey, it had finished most of what I wanted, and it kept going and iterating until I told it to stop, or I told it to keep going for 8 hours or whatever the time is. Especially when it's about to hit a reset limit, right? I'm not going to keep going until the reset limit, or you run out of credits. And it just keeps going. I found with Fable 5 that to be a little bit less of my go-to, because I burn through the credits really fast.
Yeah.
But so what do you like? What are your general thoughts? Is it something that you think, like, should I just be using a lower model and setting goals like that and letting it run constantly, or should I be doing something different?
Right. So Fable 5 is very good at diffuse reasoning, and Sonnet 5 is very good at very focused reasoning. And so I've actually started incorporating a mix, and I barely use Opus anymore, which is kind of weird because Opus was like the thing that I went to all the time before that. With Fable, it's very expensive to just have it goal seek like that. But it also depends on how many guardrails you have in place, because if the only way for the agent to see that it did something wrong is to go and like run the app and test it, then it often could introduce, again, this is all about introducing variance, right? So it might choose to test something different. You might get a regression somewhere else, and then it might not find the regression until later because you have it tested some other time. So I really like unit tests for making this more consistent. And so as long as you have like a really good unit test suite on the project, then all of a sudden the variance goes away, and it's cheaper to use Fable, because then it's going to find where it broke something without like burning credits on exploratory testing, for example. Where with Sonnet you can do like lots of rapid hits, and so if I am ever telling an agent to do any exploratory testing, I just say, here's access to the website. It's locally hosted, has the new code on it. Go ahead and try the feature that you just built. It then goes and uses a Playwright MCP server to then like start interacting with the website. And you don't want Fable doing that. It's like super expensive. There's a lot of waiting, a lot of tokens going back and forth. So Sonnet is super cheap to do this. And it's very, very fast. And so I guess, the idea of kite flying is very much like in the area of where you'd set off Sonnet to go do that. But usually when you're using Fable, there's a lot of talk about Fable and security and mythos and like limiting it access and everything. And the point to that is that, you give it 1 million tokens of stuff, and it's very good at finding relationships between very disparate sources of information. And that's why it's such a good hacker. So when you're doing something, I basically put my tasks into 2 categories right now. And this is like, a couple of weeks of experimentation, right? So, since they've like made it publicly available and everything. And so if it's security related, or if it's like something where it's going to be far reaching, like a major conversion from an old technology to a new one, I'll put Fable on it. If it's something where it's just like building something, or maybe debugging like a production issue or something, then I'll put Sonnet on it. Like right now in an AWS environment, you can have read-only production CloudWatch MCP servers, and you can just tell a Sonnet agent to go use those MCP servers, and it will go and grab the CloudWatch logs, evaluate for the problem, find it in the source code, go update the source code and say, push this, to fix the problem. And that process is very fast using Sonnet, but it's really slow using Fable. So for me, it's like, is it security? Is it a diffuse reasoning task? Give it to Fable. If it's any sort of execution task or a very like goal-oriented directive, then I give it to Sonnet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. And so I assume you're using a lot more Sonnet than most of the time.
Yeah. I mean, well, so I tend to be like, I tend to have these like really big ideas around changing something, and so I'll be like, I want to experiment with changing how authentication happens through the entire application. So like that's something that I would give to Fable. So it's kind of like 50-50. Like I'll have, and so this is the plate spinning piece of the kite flying and plate spinning. I'll have Fable going on something big and exploratory and like game changing. And then I'll have like 3 or 4 instances of Sonnet all building out different features. And then, what I tend to do is then I title each of those chats with a leading emoji, so I remember what I was doing. And then and so I'm like, the envelope is for text messaging, and the like hammer is for DevOps, and the whatever. And so then I can just be like, oh, here, take a task from this, take a task from that, and then they all kind of spin off, and then I review the code, merge it back in. And so as we're doing development, and this is often with like with mob programming, so we have 4 people there all building the prompts together. And so what we'll do is we'll like make a I like this like wisdom of the crowd idea, where everybody writes a prompt independently about everything and tries to include everything they're worried about, and then we all enter them into the chat and then send them all at the same time. Then we take all of those prompts and then merge them together into one big prompt. And then we run that prompt because now it has everybody's concerns in there. And so some people are more focused on like database performance, and other people are more focused on quality control and things like that. And then that gets into the process as well. So that's kind of like the, in my mind, the evolution of like the mob programming into this agentic
I was just
space.
wondering about that. Like, how does that work with multiple people prompting? But I get it makes sense. You end up with a lot more detail on that. I'm curious, do you prompt like only typing, or do you ever talk to your phone like a weirdo like I do, which is like probably 50% of my prompts? I'm just sitting there for like 2 minutes, like hoping that nobody's looking at me while I'm sitting here talking to my phone. I'm out somewhere. Sometimes I'm just at the house and the kids are, I'm like, quiet, I'm talking to Claude.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny because like we have people at the keyboard, and as we're rotating at the keyboard, a lot of the time the person at the keyboard is writing the prompt. So you're verbalizing your prompt often. Yeah. So I tend to, I don't know, very early on, I think I think a lot through typing. And so for me, I do tend to do that more, but I also absorb information better if I listen to it. So I go the opposite direction. I'm not reading what my agent puts on the screen. I'm listening to it because I've been maintaining this open source project for over a decade now. It's a speed reader. And so I've added an MCP server to that speed reader. And so now the agent can reserve a voice for itself from the available voices. And so now each of the agents speak with different voices so that I can hear like what it was has recently done, or if it has a question or something like that.
Oh, nice. So when you've got multiple agents running, you just hear them chime in and talk instead of the little beep.
Yeah, so I'll be like doing something. I'll be going through my email or something and be like, "Oh, I've done this," like and I need your input on something else. And I'll be like, go and Alt tab to it and start typing back to it. That's hilarious. I should talk back to it probably, but yeah. So
yeah, I wonder what your results would be like with that. I noticed for myself that when I started, I saw it on some video. I forget which one it was. But when I started talking instead of typing, I gave just way more info and context. I did find that like the first couple of times I would say something and I'd be wrong, and I'd stop and go restart it. And then I was like, why am I doing that? I'll just tell it, never mind. I changed my mind about that thing. And it just knows. Like it just works. And I'm giving it so much more context. Like I'm talking to it for like a minute or two. It's way more than I'm going to probably type, because when I type, I try to think like a programmer and be very specific on exactly what I mean to say, but leave out a lot of details. So I found it'd be really useful. I'm curious, anybody watching too, like comment what they do. Do you talk or type, or do you listen to it like Chris? I'm going to try listening though.
Yeah. Well, you can check out the speed reader, and you can find it. Just like search for my name in GitHub, you'll find it.
Just tell Claude to talk twice as fast.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey,
So, the default does read it at 500 words a minute, so I do listen to it very, very fast. But there's that aspect of it as well.
Okay, you speak like I don't know.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to make it just talk like Tupac too, though. So
yeah,
just
you could send it over to ElevenLabs or something and get it like all voice changed.
Get it all done. Actually, speaking of that, one of the things I'm doing this weekend is taking one of my buddies who died a couple years ago. I'm putting his voice into ElevenLabs, so I can put him in the game as one of the characters. Yes, and he's gonna have lots of Tupac quotes because I wanted to be realistic.
Yeah, there you go.
Literally, the last video that I have is of him like that, just ranting about West Coast rappers. So I got to come up with let AI make a game about West Coast and East Coast rappers. I'm not sure what the game is or how it's fun, but he'd like it.
Yeah, exactly. A homage. I mean, we really are in the age of bespoke software, bespoke apps.
Yeah, like making your girlfriend a game for her birthday is no longer like, hey, oh, that was a really cool thing I saw on Reddit. Now it's like, why the didn't you do it? Like, you just make her a romantic little game of the thing that she likes, and so I've got to remember that for next year.
That's gonna be my expectation going forward.
And my friend's
not my game.
His 12-year-old made a Roblox game, and my kids played it. Like, it's getting to the point where it's just there's really no excuse other than your ideas suck, which is the one that I'm running into right now. So I'm trying to come up with an idea that doesn't suck. Anybody that's got one and doesn't mind me stealing it, also feel free to share that. Happy to steal a good idea if it's fun to play.
Nice.
Well, a good idea that somebody wants stolen, I should say.
Right.
Just to be clear.
Well, yeah, it used to be the idea was the cheap part, and then building it was the thing that made it so that stealing ideas was okay. Because if you stole an idea and the other person didn't build it, then it's not really stealing the idea then. But yeah,
now the idea and the design is it.
Yeah, it's interesting. It still takes a considerable amount of money to build all this stuff. Because of the number of iterations that the LLM has to go through in the first place.
Yeah.
But
it's just drastically cheaper. It's just like the cost has gone from many hundreds of millions to tens of millions to single digit millions to hundreds of thousands to now. If you're dedicated and a decent designer with some time, you could do it relatively cheap. And I think the last thing that I wanted to kind of make sure to mention was the thing that really kicked me over the edge of this, because I've been thinking about AI like replacing programming as kind of the core, not like replacing, I mean like changing the way that we do programming so that it's not mostly just us writing code, just like engines and IDEs changed the way we do it. But I've been thinking about that since I guess slightly before ChatGPT. But what pushed it over the edge was going to GDC and seeing basically a Castle Crashers clone that visually looked better, that was built by an artist and a sound guy with no programmer. And they had a working game that they had built using Bezi, which is another, it's an AI agent harness that works pretty well. I think that's the one that I used, one of the ones that I used the GLP on. I forget. I tried it on there. They have a variety of them. But when I saw that they had built a game and I talked to them and they're like, yeah, I'm not programmers. I can kind of read a little bit of code, but couldn't like write, a game or an application, like kind of like know what an if statement means. But they're like, yeah, we just, got to focus on the cool parts, like making the visuals the way we wanted. They had to make the art, the 2D art, and make the sound and make the boss fights, but not have to worry about the programming. And they did it in a really fast timeline too. Like that was it. I was like, okay, there's no more. excuses, right? There's no like, I can't build this game because I don't have enough money or team. It's really just like
Right.
whether or not you have the spare time and the idea. So you just need time and idea, and that's it. I really feel bad for my buddy Brad McQuaid. Like, died a couple years ago, was building Pantheon, and he would have gone completely crazy and loved this because you've been able to build like the massive crazy stuff that he wanted to do always, but just needed billions of dollars to do. Like, all within reach now. So
yeah, pretty wild, the difference, and yeah, there's certainly like I do think as well, like of people who have like passed fairly recently, like what would they have thought of all of this? Because it's it is sort of a inflection point for culture in general. Yeah,
it feels, I mean, to me, about the same as the internet. This feels like about the time when people started to get like cable internet, and other people that weren't weirdos like started to use the internet too. It wasn't just me on IRC trying to talk to girls or whatever, and play video games.
that was exactly. I mean, so before 2023. I'd be like, yeah, we should be doing AI. And everybody would look at me like I'm crazy. And then like, after 2023, they're like, tell me more. And I'm like, okay, well, you guys just think it's popular because of ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So yeah, certainly that's exactly what it feels like. So
it's going to be exciting to see where it goes and what happens. I think anybody that's not paying attention is definitely completely missing out and going to be left behind. And going to be just like the people that don't use the internet,
right.
Yeah, which like was my mom until it was a lot of people until it got forced onto them on an iPhone. I mean, there was a big chunk of people that still would not be online if not for the iPhone. And I guess AI is going to kind of push that way too. It's going to be all in the phones, and unfortunately, we'll all end up with a situation like that Miss Davis show. Which have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
Okay, I'll read the book. You should watch. Just watch 1 or 2 episodes. You won't want to not watch it. It's
all right.
I will not spoil it. It is the best AI show I've seen.
All right, sounds good.
It doesn't look like an AI show. It is the one with the nun on the front.
Oh, okay. All right.
It is a completely misleading picture on the front of what the actual show is, but yeah.
All right.
Well, we've got our assignments. I'll read the book. What was the book again? We'll pop it up.
Oh, it is the alignment problem.
The alignment problem, and go check out Miss Davis. All right, anything else you want to say before we wrap it up, Chris?
Yeah, no, I'm just excited to have this going, and we can talk about all things AI, and we'll probably be looking for guests and things like that too. So just
we'll bring somebody interesting on next week and talk about something specific, and then I think in the future we'll dive into some more technical stuff, details on how to do some things, and if people have questions, we can obviously do some episodes answering questions about AI stuff and what people want to learn about, or what things people think that we should learn about that we might not know about as well. I think it'll be a lot of fun. Really looking forward to it. Don't forget to like and subscribe and all that stuff, and drop all those comments down below with the questions, and let us know what kind of AI stuff you're working on. Maybe we'll demo soon too. At least I'll demo some stuff soon.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. Yeah,
cool.
That'd be awesome.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah. Thanks, Jason. And bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.